Let's look at the first product here. We've got a thermal conditioning monitor. What this is really, a lot of the infrastructure around us, they have a lot of electrical panel boards you might see, or you might have in your buildings or anywhere around the roads. And all of them have electrical devices that can potentially, get hot or catch on fire. So essentially what this main device is used for, there's a main unit which you can connect many IR sensors to it. And it monitors live each segment of the panel, and it's continuously monitoring it. So what's the use of that? I'll give you an example. If in today's case, if you want to do any maintenance in panels, you have to have someone physically go out, check the panel with one of those IR temperature guns, it's one of those things that people point at your head these days, something like that. And that's a lot of labor and a lot of time and cost involved with that. If you have a device like this that constantly monitors, it can give you alarms or even warnings. And this has a predictive algorithm, which is patented by Omron, which can actually tell you when things are about to rise or get hot to it, and give you an alarm even before it goes too hot or catches on fire. So I think the best way to give you an understanding of this product, I'll just demo this product. This might be the best way to do it. So let me just share my screen here. So what I've got here is a simulation of a panel, what you might typically see in the real world. We've got a PLC here, and on the right, we've actually got the main unit of the thermal conditioning monitor I just spoke about. And connected to that main unit is the sensors, the IR sensors that get the heat signature from the panel. And for the purposes of this demo, because I can't make any of these devices catch on fire, I've got a soldering iron with me. Now I know what temperatures this thing can get up to. I'll just switch it on now. And the idea is to push this in front of the sensors and show you that what kind of alarms or things it can trigger. Okay, let me just put my camera to the side here. All right. So you'll also see the user interface of the software here. This is what popped up when you first connected to your computer. The main interface, you can see you can have 5 main units. In this case, I'm only using 1 main unit. If you want to go a little bit deeper, see the sensors that are connected to it. If you hit this monitor button, you can see there are 2 sensors connected right now, and the maximum temperatures it's reading so far. I'll just reset these values and it'll still be the same. You can go more in depth and look at the sensors. Let's look at this one that's starting to get a little bit hot. So if we go into it, you'll see this interface. Now on the right, we have a thermal image of the actual sensor that's reading. This will show you what the current reading of the temperature is on the panels. Right now you can see that a little bit of that soldering iron's getting hot. It's around 60 degrees, and it's actually given a little bit of a warning there. It's throwing a warning that it's getting hot. And each of these segments are pixels, right? There's 1,024 pixels, and you can have your mouse cursor on any of those pixels to see what temperature it's currently at. And on the left, it's much of the same. Each segment, you can see there's about 4 by 4 segments. They all show the maximum temperature it's read so far and the current temperature. On the next tab, I've loaded an image, basically of what the sensor is looking at, just as I showed you before. And let's say you're on a control panel. This is what you'd want, and you don't have access to a panel. You want to read it remotely. You can load pictures to see what each sensor is looking at. Now, what you can see in the video here, that it's actually gone yellow. That's indicating, and it's normally green, but it's gone yellow because it's indicating a warning. Now, in the next tab here, the thresholds, that's where you can actually set the warnings and alarms. Each segment out of the 16, you can set individual warning levels and individual alarm levels. So on this first one, threshold, that's the warning. If it goes beyond 70 degrees, it will throw a warning in any of those segments. And I know the soldering iron can get hot enough that it will go beyond 110 degrees. So I've put an alarm state for that second threshold. Now, let's have a look at that. I'll just go to the thermal image, and I'll push this soldering iron in front of the sensor. It should be quite hot now. And immediately you'll see that the light's gone red. That's indicating an alarm. And in segment number 10, you can see that it's exceeded the temperature of 110 degrees, and it's throwing an alarm. So it's quite useful. It's monitoring in real time. So just another note, this temperature gap, it's quite useful as well. The thresholds represent, so let's say you have an ambient temperature and you want to set these as a differential, a temperature differential from the ambient temperature. Ambient temperature always changes, right, in the real world. So if you want to throw an alarm that, for example, in this case, if the panel goes 30 degrees above the ambient temperature, it also throws a warning. Or if it goes 70 degrees above ambient temperature, it throws an alarm. So I think you have a good idea or an understanding of what this product is like. I'll just switch this off now. It's quite useful in the real world. I'll just share my presentation again.